The following film is the video portion of an E6-4 lesson. E6-4 is the computerized curriculum designed for homeschools, Christian schools, family worship, Sunday schools, and church Bible study groups. The software contains many features, including family worship, music, competition builder, computer-supervised lesson plans, and more.
For some time, I have been in awe of everything I see around me. Daily, I could be seen muttering to myself, "Wow, what a miracle." I just couldn't help myself. I was amazed with the way the mind thinks, a violin concerto, the mathematical preciseness of all nature. I could go on, so much perfection. Then there's the universe, the sun, the moon, and the stars. But what really struck me was the moon, or what some call the man in the moon. In reality, we see the same side of the moon every night, if it happens to be cloudless. And I thought, now isn't that remarkable, in addition to everything else that astounds me? I couldn't help but wonder, does it turn on its axis at an impossibly precise speed? Or might it have happened as a result of anything other than an intelligent designer? Our intelligent designer must have had a reason for it, but I'm not sure what it is, except for our benefit. That's why I refer to our intelligent designer as our purposeful designer, or maybe intentional designer, our God. Some scientists say that the moon happens to spin at such a rate on its own axis as it orbits the Earth that we always see the same side. More probable and understandable to me is that it travels straight ahead as it moves around its lunar orbit around the Earth, like a railroad car on a circular railroad track in its orbit around the Earth. From our viewpoint, we always see the same side. These are some photos of our full moon. I took one of them. The others were taken by different photographers from different locations on the Earth on different dates. And I do think that God, our purposeful designer, had us in mind when he put our moon in motion and keeps it going. It's a pretty sight. I'm speaking to you today about God's creation as it was done in 6 24-hour days, some 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. And so the order of things is day 1 through day 6. And then God rested on day 7. To start with, we have Genesis 1, 1 through 5, where we are told, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." The foundation of it all. God also started the spinning of the earth, which formed light and darkness, day and night. God has instructed us concerning his deeds in the Bible. Isaiah 40, verse 22, which is written around 700 BC, reads, "He, God, sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy and spreads them out like a tent to live in." Then there was Job, a man who lived around 2300 BC. And in Job 26 verse 7 he writes, "He, God, spreads out the northern skies over the empty space. He suspends the earth over nothing." It took most of the folks on earth a long time to wise up to the circle of the earth or around earth. They actually feared seafarers would surely sail over the edge. In 1492, what do you suppose people of Columbus Day thought about the earth? They thought it was flat. We, including the scientists, even now, don't get it right without the aid of the Bible. This is one of the major reasons for the Understanding the Creation project. We all need to get it right, especially so that we can talk to others about our beliefs. Around 600 BC, the prophet Jeremiah wrote, "But God made the earth by his power. He founded the world by his wisdom and stretched out the heavens by his understanding." The second law of thermodynamics says that energy for useful work is always decreasing with time. What keeps things going? So much movement. It is amazing, yet we seldom think of it. The Earth orbits the Sun at a never-changing speed of 66,700 miles per hour, which is 18.5 miles per second. The orbit takes 365 days, 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 46 seconds each year, and traverses 584.3 million miles in its circle around the Sun. The Earth makes one complete rotation on its own axis in 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4 seconds, which is one day. And what got it all started? You and I are speeding along. At the equator, the orbital speed of spin is 1,037.5646 miles per hour. The Moon revolves around the Earth in 27.3217 days in a month, with an orbital velocity of 2,288.16 miles per hour year after year. How many of you have played with a top, spun a top and watched what happened? If you start a top spinning, it will slow down and stop. Well, there must be something special about the creation. The Earth, Sun, Moon, and stars, they keep on moving in perfection. Even scientists can be stumped by this if they don't search the scriptures. What does Albert Einstein have to do with this? Albert Einstein was one step better than the average scientist, as he, believing in intelligence, purposeful designer, gave credence to the notion that someone greater than mere humans planned it all and brought it about. He put it this way: the most incomprehensible thing about the universe is that it's comprehensible. Someday, if you're having a discussion, pro or con, concerning the biblical account of creation, feel free to mention that Albert Einstein, considered the smartest ever, saw it your way. That's it for day one. As God said, "And there was evening and there was morning," the first day. Now for the second day of creation, when the sky and water were separated, we are told about this in Genesis 1, verses 6 through 8, in part. So God made the expanse or sky and separated the water under it from the water above it. Yes, water is pretty important as an essential for life on Earth. Taken from a satellite, here's a photo of the Earth. Near the center you can see the island of Madagascar, with the continent of Africa to the west and the Arabian Peninsula to the north. Now the oceans make up 71% of the Earth's surface, with land making up 29%. So most of the world is covered with water. What are the benefits or uses of this important substance, water? The universal solvent. Water for plants, for agriculture, for animals and humans to drink, since our bodies are mostly made up of water. For making of chemical compounds, for washing, cleaning, diluting, water for travel, water for ice, water for sports. Why do you think scientists are always asking the question, is there water on Mars? Because water, or H2O, is a requirement for life as we know it, purposely provided for us. The Earth is called the Blue Planet because of the oceans and the abundance of water, and the atmosphere, which also contains water. When I discuss the water cycle later, I will stress why the set ratio of oceans to land, 71% to 29%, is necessary for life as we know it to exist on the Earth. As for our atmosphere, oxygen in the air is vital to human and animal life. A person will die if deprived of oxygen for only 5 minutes. Nitrogen is an important part of the food chain. Plants use nitrogen from the air to form proteins, which is a necessary part of our diet. You can see a give and take here. Also, the percentage balance is important. If our atmosphere held a much greater percentage of oxygen, much more than 21%, the plant life would suffer because they need nitrogen, and the chance of unwanted combustion because of too much oxygen would be too great. You have heard about argon. It's an inert gas that does not support combustion, so it's used in incandescent light bulbs where the filament gets red hot. It is also used as a shield in arc welding and to fill the gap between two panes of glass because of its excellent insulation qualities. This little cartoon recently caught my attention. It's about the Earth's water-land proportions and about whether our Earth is round. Do you think Parker and Hart might have penned it because they enjoyed my Understand the Creation project? We know that water is very important for plants, agriculture, for everything. But how does the water get to the many places it needs to be? The very special rain cycle, as orchestrated by our purposeful designer, is complex, not an accident. Number one, the vast oceans. 71% of the Earth's surface is covered with water. This ratio, 71% ocean, 29% land, is perfectly designed for the initiation of the rain cycle. More than 71% oceans would be a problem. Too much ocean would lead to too much rain and floods. Less than 71% ocean would also be a problem. Not enough rain and dry deserts. Number two, to start the rain cycle, the sun warms the ocean's waters. Number three, by evaporation, warm water turns to gaseous vapor. Number four, warmth of the earth raises the water vapor upward in the atmosphere through a process called convection. Number five, rotation of the earth and winds move the water vapor from the ocean area to over the land. Number six, as the water vapor rises, it cools and attaches itself to dust particles in the atmosphere, forming clouds. Number seven, more water vapor particles attach themselves to the dust particles and they form droplets of water. Number eight, when the weight of the water droplets becomes heavy enough to overcome the upward rising tendency, the droplets fall to earth as rain. Raindrops are typically about 1/10 of an inch in diameter. Number nine, rain or precipitation nourishes the earth, causes vegetation to grow, and cleanses the earth. And finally, number 10, rivers flow the water back to the oceans again for the continuation of the rain cycle. We typically don't give this complicated rain cycle much thought, but it was purposely designed for us and for plants, which we will discuss next for day 3. As for day 2, and there was evening and there was morning, the second day. Now for the third day of creation, seas, land, and vegetation were created. The Bible explains this in Genesis 1:9 through 13. Let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kinds. God created more than 258,000 varieties of plants that have been discovered and named so far. And new varieties are continuing to be discovered. These plants were created for man to use in a variety of ways, such as food, cereals, vegetables, fruits, nuts, herbs, edible flowers, cooking oils, sugar from beets and sugar cane. Non-food products, wood for building, for burning, for cooking and heat, cloth for clothing, coals, soaps, paints, dyes, and more. Medicinal. The coca plant is used to produce local anesthetic. Coffee and tea are stimulants. Kava kava is used to produce a tranquilizer. Pineapple is an anti-inflammatory. The poppy plant is used to produce codeine and morphine analgesic. The quinine tree is used to produce anti-malarial drugs. Thyme is used to produce a topical antifungal and more. Aesthetic uses, windbreaks, providing privacy, ornamentals, lawn grasses, landscaping, a place for birds to nest. Scientific uses and cultural uses, such as in religion and literature, state emblems, wreaths, in memorials, and for their beauty, your backyard, an arboretum, a pleasant hillside. Oh, we could think of so many uses, couldn't we? My pitch is this. This is not at all an accident, but purposely designed for the express benefit of you and me. Just one example of a fruit important to our well-being is the lowly apple, having many nutritional and medicinal properties. There are many vitamins in the fruit of the apple. For example, vitamin C has many uses and prevents scurvy. The fiber fights digestive disorders, constipation, and dysentery. Its pectin limits gallbladder and kidney problems. It is low in sodium and high in potassium. It helps fight heart disease by lowering blood pressure. Apple juice is considered beneficial for infant feeding, preventing diarrhea, and peptic ulcers in patients. These are only a few of the beneficial uses of the apple. And the animals certainly find the apple beneficial as well. Every plant, every animal, and of course we humans are made up of purposefully designed tiny building blocks called cells. There are many different kinds of cells, each with its own purpose and specific functions, but we hardly ever think about them in our everyday lives. Let's step aside for a moment from our study of plants and vegetation to take a fascinating look at the living cells in you and me. Mind-boggling might be the word for it. When you think of it, what's going inside of us and the extreme complexity of it all. Molecules and millions of atoms with jobs to do. Chromosomes, genes, DNA. Charles Darwin was at a disadvantage in 1859. Science as we know it was not well advanced. In his book, Origin of Species, in 1859, he declared that a single cell was composed of nothing but slime filled with common liquid material. In the 1900s, scientists viewed a cell as a simple lump of a luminous combination of carbon. In 1955, scientists at Penn State University, using a field ion microscope, got an even closer look at individual atoms within a living cell. Recently, in 2003, the detailed sequencing of the human DNA was completed. An adult human body typically holds 50 to 75 trillion cells. And each one is incredibly complex, like a fully active and organized city, doing all the jobs necessary for your being and well-being. Let's look at some of the fascinating facts about human cells. There are 210 distinct cell types in your body. Here are some examples. Gland cells, like the ones composing the salivary and mammary glands. Hormone cells, like those in the thyroid and adrenal glands. Sensory cells, such as auditory and photoreceptor cells for hearing and sight. Blood cells, both red and white. Germ cells, both good and bad. Metabolic cells, which harness the energy your body needs to sustain life. There are 17 million bits of information in one human cell. There are more than 250 genes in each cell. Isn't the big picture of what is inside us amazing? Now let's take a closer look at what is going on in each one of these trillions of tiny cells. We will take a look at one of our metabolic type cells. Here is a slide that shows some detail. Roche Drug Company sketch out what they call biomedical pathways, metabolic pathways, pathway 1B, biochem G5 human cell. They show what is going on and the chemical activity in one of your cells. But wait, that is just 1/100th of all that's going on in that one cell. This slide shows all the activity, with the detail of the earlier slide just a small segment of Roche's wall chart, the G5 segment. This chart, developed by the drug company Roche, is portrayed in a large wall in a large room. Think of it. But the complexity does not end there. The previous slides were looking at pathway 1B. This slide shows pathway 2B as detailed by Roche. This is part of what you and I are made of. Please don't ask me to explain it all. Now can we see that there is no way to truly comprehend the enormity of God's seemingly simple statement on day 3 of creation. Let the land produce vegetation. In the span of just one day, day 3, God created a whole world of plants. More plants than can be numbered. And each of these plants contain millions, billions, or trillions of cells. And each of these cells was more complex than we can fully understand. But even though we don't understand how these things came to be, we know the truth of Mark 10:27. All things are possible with God. Well, that's it for ending this session 1 and day 3 of creation. And God said, and there was evening and there was morning, the 3rd day.
The film you have just watched is the video portion of an E6-4 lesson. E6-4 is the software curriculum that provides education with a strong biblical worldview.
And now, here's Bethany to show you how E6-4 helps my wife, Jacqueline, plan for some special times to focus on important tasks and still manage the children's education.
Hi, my name is Bethany, and this is my mother, Jacqueline. Tell us what you're doing today, Mom.
I'm working in the office today. I have about 4 hours worth of work to do to finish up our income taxes for the year and get them in the mail. And since the children are a great interruption to that process, making it virtually impossible to finish, Maddie is going to be supervising their schoolwork today for me, and they're all forbidden to come in the office.
So the children are on their own. What are they doing? Does today have to be a non-school day? Not at all, because we use E64. Let's start in the den and see what the children are doing. We have 3 laptop computers set up here in the den. Let's visit with Sutara first. Hi, Sutara. Why don't you tell us what you're working on today?
I'm working on E64 math.
Wow. So what other things can you do with E64?
English, history, science, and Bible studies.
That's neat. So how do you know what lesson you're supposed to be working on?
I don't have to know. I just log in with my name, and the program goes right to the lesson where I'm supposed to be. And if I stop in the middle of a lesson, when I sign back in, it remembers where I was.
That's great. Let's go take a look at what Madison and Gavito are doing. Hi, boys. What are y'all working on today?
Learning to read.
What are you reading about?
Noah the Ark. It's so cool. Look, here's all the animals coming out of the ark.
That is cool. Let's go see what Madara is working on. Hi, Madi. I see you're doing your E64 schoolwork. What are you studying?
Today I'm learning about how to care for babies and infants.
Aw, that sounds so exciting. What else will you do today?
Today is Mom's bill paying day, so in addition to my own schoolwork, it's my job to see that the children do their chores and their schoolwork. There are not enough computers for everybody, so while Joshua is doing his E64, I have Yedick working on his chores. After about an hour, I'll have them swap out. I do the same thing with Armand and Sitara.
How do you know what each child needs to be working on?
Mom has chore cards she makes for each one of the children, so I just have to read their card to know what chores they are supposed to do. And she has already made their lesson plan for E64, so I just follow the lesson plan for each child. The computer keeps track of their schoolwork. All I have to do is make sure they are working and not being idle.
How do you do that?
That's easy. Watch this. If I press F3, it comes up with a daily record, showing everything I've done today, including the times. So from time to time, I just go around, look at the daily record for each of the children. I can see everything he or she has done or not done, as the case may be.
Thank you, Madi. Let's go see what's going on in the great room. Here we have Armand. What are you working on today, Armand?
Right now I'm working for Wally, building question sets for just the Bible. Wally makes the videos and I do the question sets.
That's interesting. What else will you be doing today?
I will have to do my E64 lessons.
What kind of lessons?
Math, English, history, science, and Bible studies.
Thank you so much, Armand. Now let's go see what Wally's doing. Hi, Wally. What are you working on?
I'm working on creating the video for the next lesson in Mom's Learning to Read lesson series.
Wow. Will you be doing anything else today?
Yes, I'm going to be working on my E64 lessons.
Thank you, Wally. And now we see how Jacqueline can keep the children on track with their schoolwork and still have time to get her important paperwork done. The key is the lesson plan feature of E64. Because she has designed lesson plans for each of the children, E64 will provide the instruction with very little intervention needed by a teacher. A third feature is the family worship mode, which is ideal for family worship, school chapel services, family Sunday school classes, or church Bible study groups. Once you set up your lesson plan, this mode offers instruction and catechism, one lesson section at a time. Reminds you to do prayer, thanksgiving and praise, Bible memorization, and includes a complete music section with songs and hymns for worship. Each song can be played with or without the vocals. Another E64 feature
is the competition mode, where you create a lesson plan and the program randomly selects question sets from the lessons to create a fun and exciting competition, which can be as small as the competition our family does every day in our daily family worship, to as large as the Southeast Bible competition we conducted with multiple rounds and prizes, including a new laptop computer and tickets to a major theme park. Another feature is Apples of Gold, a computerized parlor game for more advanced students, where two clue givers devise clues to help their teams come up with a phrase from the Bible. To schedule the Homeschool Advantage to come to your church or homeschool conference and teach your people how to use computer software to build strong biblical households, contact Captain Bret at 678-570-2195 or email terabenth@inbox.com.